Dave, how you doing today? I didn't mean, not that I view flat Earth as like a freaking Friday the 13th thing, but hey, it just worked out. We got one of the biggest debated topics in the world, and it's Friday the
I
13th.
didn't even realize it was Friday
Yep,
the 13th. Here
yep.
we
It
go.
was inadvertent, but I love it. It's on brand for what we got going on here. So,
Very nice. Excited to have this conversation. I love talking to people that think we live on a spinning ball flying through an impossible vacuum of space.
well,
So
you
it's
know,
always a fun conversation.
me and Walter, I'm gonna speak for him, but we're not exactly science majors. We're not the dullest pencils in the box, but I'm not saying either one of us got a sharp point either. So we are also both probably super impressionable. So by the end of this, we'll probably be 110% on board just because we certainly don't have any facts other than what scientists tell us to
Well,
dispute. So
so just a new study shows, and that's all you have to write at the beginning of any article to make people believe it. A new study shows, and then they're like, "Oh, this must be real because it's a new study." And when you talk about scientists and teachers, they're the ones that memorize the nonsense in the textbooks and do it the best. Once they memorize it, they can become the new teachers and the new scientists.
it's
Uh,
actually funny you say that. There's this new game show on Netflix. It's kind of stupid, but it's called Bullshit. And the one guy was saying how like he learned weasel words, and like there's just certain phrases like, oh, research shows, or oh, like, and like the latest study shows, just weasel words. It's just like preemptive, getting us to buy in before we read line two, basically.
I like the concept of a show called Bullshit. Let me
Yeah.
tell you guys a story, and then you say bullshit when you can't take it anymore. Okay,
Okay.
you ready? Once
Yep.
upon a time, there was nothing, and nothing exploded and became everything. And then when it became everything, all of the solid bits of matter started sticking together. And as they started getting into bigger and bigger clumps, they started creating gravity and attracting more of that solid matter. At the same time, all of the gases somehow started sticking into balls also. And they started making bigger balls and pulling in more gases to the point where the gravity was so strong that they started a nuclear furnace and they became these giant stars. And so now you have rocky balls, circular balls of matter, and rocky of solid matter, and gassy balls that are burning, and then in between them they leave a vacuum. So we have burning balls of gas in a vacuum holding on to rocky balls that are going around it in perfect symmetry, perfect predictable orbits. And then lightning struck and somehow created some DNA, and that DNA turned into an amoeba, and that amoeba turned into a fish that climbed out of the water, found another sexy fish with legs, had sex, turned into a monkey, and that monkey had a retarded baby that became a human. And then we developed languages and electricity and computer chips. Have you had
Yeah, I mean,
enough?
it definitely is preposterous, especially like if you take some of that stuff and you take like the monkey became a human, and then you just take that story, and it's like, if you read the Bible, depending on, it's like, well, they were like of the same person and then they hooked up. So like, are we all just from incest then? Anyway, like if you really take it for like face value of the text, and like, even if you do dig deeper, like there's a lot of questions. And my biggest thing so much is, like a couple months ago, they were like, "Oh, no, 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 dinosaurs had feathers." So what do we really 110% like? Granted, there's research, and oh, this guy wrote a book or that guy wrote a book. The guy you talked to, the professor in the beginning of April, he's like, "Oh, these people wrote books," and this might sound really fucking stupid. Do we actually know that those people wrote those books though? Do we
So,
actually
yeah.
100%
Awesome.
how?
Listen, hold on. You're unpacking a lot of things. I want to address them. I
Sorry.
want to talk about dinosaurs, but you also said at the beginning that you're not a scientist. You're not and your minds are malleable. That's good, because scientists have locked themselves into a ridiculous belief system so strong that they cannot accept new information. And scientists will even admit, like Michio Kaku and Hubble, Edward Hubble say, I think Hubble's the one that said, even though every test and observation we see shows us at the center of creation, that's a position that we cannot put ourselves in philosophically. Therefore, we have to make up this entire expanding universe thing, because we can't have ourselves in an important position because it goes against our dogma. It's absolute ridiculousness. And so you guys are already smarter than scientists because you're willing to listen, look, and think. And they don't want us doing that. Dinosaurs. Did you know that through all of our history, go back all the way to the pyramids, there's no mention of dinosaurs anywhere. No one in all of the major megalithic construction worldwide has ever come across a dinosaur bone. Then in the mid 1800s, some royal guy writes a paper about theorizing about dinosaurs and publishes it. A year later, to the day, he discovers the first dinosaur. Is that enough to call bullshit?
Right. I mean, you know, it all adds up so neatly when they want it to.
Always. But they're horrible at all of this stuff. They can't keep their lies straight. They get stuff wrong left and right all the time. For those people that are listening right now and like, why are these guys talking flat earth with this nut job? I'm offering 3 Bitcoins for 1 globe proof. I have a challenge for you guys at the end. I'll throw it out there. And anybody that wants to supply me just one piece of evidence that we live on a globe, you win 3 Bitcoins.
So before I forget to ask this, I want to ask, and we're going to go all over the place here. It's just kind of the nature of me and Walt. That's all right.
Perfect.
So why,
why the lie?
Why are they sticking to the story? Is it like, so you said like they kind of don't admit things, like, for example, depending on what side of like the pandemic you're on, I think in the beginning they were wrong, but they're the government, so they couldn't admit they were wrong. So it's just like, well, guys, we got to keep this going now. And I think that does happen with other things. Like they're like, no, this is right. And then they're like, oh man, that wasn't right. But we can't tell a billion people that we just completely were so wrong. We're going to lose all credibility. Or is it something deeper?
It's so much deeper than that. Let me throw some numbers at you. And they never taught us to deal with big numbers in school. That's one thing that they never taught us with. They tell us there's 7.8 billion people on Earth. Okay. We got 5 plants. What platform is this going on? I just want to be careful what I say.
This will be on like just podcast, Buzzsprout, like all the podcast directories.
So I can say stuff there. So I'll still say it in code in case anyone puts it on YouTube. So there's the V manufacturers, that stick the thing in your arm. There's 5 different manufacturers. Let's pretend each one of them has 5 plants that make the V, and they can produce at each plant 1 every second of every day, 24/7, without a holiday or a break. Okay, that's some serious production. That means every second there's 25 new V's being made to stick in people's arms. Okay, well, it would take 10 years before there's enough for 1 for each person on Earth, before there's 7.8 billion of them. It would take 10 years of production at that rate without a single shutdown for there to be enough for 1 for each person on Earth. If the numbers that they're telling us are true, if there's that many people, they're lying about our population. They're lying about everything. And that all comes into why the lie about flat Earth. And the answer is, it's not the shape of the Earth that matters. Flat is not a shape. Flat is a description of level and horizontal. Large bodies of water at rest lay horizontal. They're testably, measurably, scientifically, provably flat. Right? If we lived on a ball, there'd have to be some curvature. So getting away, we can get into the details. We're going to jump to the conclusion, like, oh my God, there's been a murder. What's the motive? And the motive is they want us believing that we're spinning out of control, lost in an infinite godless universe or distant God universe at best, in a position where every cell in our body holds the fear that, hey, one day an asteroid could hit us, or we're running out of water. We're running out of food. We're overpopulated. Global warming, nuclear bombs. All of these things are lies. All of them are lies in ways that most people can't even fathom. And when you tell somebody something like, "Hey, nuclear bombs don't exist," their guttural reaction is, "What do you mean? Hiroshima, Nagasaki? Are those people faking?" Hiroshima and Nagasaki were not nuclear blasts. They were TNT blasts. And there's proof, evidence, solid, that this is all just a scam to keep you in fear. Why do they want you in fear? Because when you're in fear, you give up your God-given free will, and you allow someone else to control you. The only people that have control over you the only control people have over you is in your imagination. Okay. So they want you to keep imagining that they're in control and therefore they will be in control. We live in this incredible system where we have incredible abilities, but they don't want you to use that. You know what? Your brain, the 90% of your brain that they tell you that you don't use in school, well, that's by design. They don't want you connecting with source, using your pineal gland. They don't want you connecting with nature, connecting to higher realms. They don't want you using your imagination to create the reality that you deserve. They want you in fear. They steer your mind with the news, steering with the news, NEWS, north, east, west, south. Fear is all they show you, false evidence appearing real. And they want to keep you in that low vibration where you just give up everything and allow them to rule your lives. The 10% of your brain that you use in school is for accounting and algebra and marketing and all good little skills to keep you as good little worker slaves in their corporations. They don't teach you about being an entrepreneur. They don't teach you about doing things that are good for humanity. They just want you working in your box, slaving away, remaining partially sick for your entire life, and then dying. That's what they want.
Well, and if you look at like it to that sentiment, people are like, oh, we outside life and aliens. Well, it's everything. I feel like everything is constructed for a purpose. Like, let's say the flat earth thing, people are like, oh, well, how come we can't walk off the edge? Well, let me tell you, because they don't want you to walk. Like if it's just not designed to be that way. Even with other planets, like we're almost guaranteed there's other life out there. We haven't gotten them. Well, it's just set up that way. Like We're not, like, for so many things are just set up to be limited and, kind of handicap us.
Sean, let me address a couple things. So people that think flat earth is crazy are right, because their idea of what flat earth is absolutely crazy. And if flat earth was shown to me what I thought it was, this is absolute nonsense. A disc floating in space where you could fall off the edge. We don't believe that we're a disc floating in space with other round planets or other flat planets. We don't believe any of that, because the evidence shows that's not how this place is set up. So aliens, aliens, extraterrestrials, well, they teach us that, well, the universe is so big. If we were the only ones, that's really self-centered and a waste of space. There has to be life out there. I'm with you on that concept if we lived in a heliocentric world, but we don't. So what about aliens? And then first I'm going to talk about the heliocentric model and how absolutely absurd aliens coming from other planets is. And then I'm going to show you where extraterrestrials come from. Okay. And it'll make sense. Space is scientifically impossible. First, we have a high pressure gassy system here on Earth adjacent to a vacuum of space. Well, that vacuum of space, which we can't even recreate here on Earth, that it's a Tor 17 vacuum. That's how they rate vacuums. We can only get up to like a Tor, 10 vacuum, and the walls on that vacuum chamber are 10 feet thick of steel and concrete. And why doesn't it suck all the air away? And the Glober excuse is, well, gravity is holding it down. The air gets thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner until it becomes nothing. And there's your adjacent. Well, you can't have air pressure without a container, with a sealed container. And to disprove the gravity thing, I could take a straw at any altitude, ground level, in the air, whatever, put it down and breathe in with low pressure of my mouth and pull air and liquid up and away from gravity effortlessly. So how come the super vacuum of space can't pull the air up and away? If gravity was holding the air down to the earth, I could have a shoebox in the middle of a room holding it up in the air and then suck all the air out of the room from below the shoebox, and the air in the shoebox would remain in the shoebox because of gravity. And we all know that doesn't happen. Gases fill the available space. It should just be spread out equally through space. That doesn't happen. So space is scientifically impossible. Now, let's look at, we're told that those lights in the sky are giant burning balls, and around them are planets. And just like we are going around our burning ball, the sun, which is 93 million miles away. Nonsense. Okay. The closest star is Alpha Centauri. It's 4.5 light years away. That's the distance light travels in a year to get to us. 4.5 light years is 25 trillion miles. Doesn't sound like that far. Trillion miles. Let me ask you guys a question. How long is 1 trillion seconds? Take a guess. If you guess it within a week, I'll give you a Bitcoin. Go ahead.
Oh God, guess it within a week. I got no idea. I don't even have a.
Just
good
take
guess.
a stab. Take a stab.
7 years, 3 weeks, 6 days, 1 hour, 27 seconds.
Wow, not bad. 31,000 years. Okay. So 1 trillion seconds. Think about this. Just think about how large this number is. A trillion seconds. Seconds are pretty short. 31,000 years. So now if you were in a spaceship and you wanted to go to Alpha Centauri and you're traveling at a mile per second, which is faster than any human has ever traveled, and you're traveling for 31,000 years, you are now 1/25th of the way to the closest star. You got to do that 24 more times to get to the closest star. And the next star is magnitudes farther. Okay. Are you starting to understand how ridiculous these distances are? Right. So our sun is 8 light minutes away. And so imagine if our sun, this giant, our sun is one of those big yoga workout balls and the earth is a pebble next to it or a marble. And if the sun was just a mile over your head one day, we just move it in for scaling purposes. It's going to fill the entire sky, horizon to horizon. It's massive. You look up, that's all you'll see is the sun. Now we move it 93 million miles away. Now how big is the sun? It's the size of a coin held at arm's length, right? Make sense?
Right.
Okay, so now what happens if we doubled the distance? How much smaller does it get? Remember, it went from the entire sky to the size of a coin held at arm's length. How much smaller does it get? Now, people say, well, it would get so small you couldn't see it. Some other people say, well, it would be half the size that it is if you doubled the distance. That's not true. It's way smaller, but let's just say that's true. Now let's make it 24 times farther. It's now scientifically provable that its angular size is too small for your eye to resolve. That's not a question. It's not a theory. It's too small. 24 times farther. 24 times 8 minutes is 3 light hours. So our sun, at the size that they tell us, at 3 light hours away, is magnitudes too small to see. There's another problem besides the angular size. It's the brightness. Brightness diminishes exponentially over distance, and we can get into that in a minute. But let's ignore that because we don't even need that. All right. This is the planet star killer. So at 3 light hours away, the sun is impossible to see. Well, let's compare that to a star. Well, we know the North Star, which everybody in the North can see. They tell us it's 46 times bigger than our sun. Well, let's make it 48 times bigger just for safekeeping. If it's 48 times bigger, 48 times 3 light hours is 6 light days. Okay, so 6 light days away, Polaris is scientifically provable, too small to see, and the brightness issue, we're not even going to address it. Okay, that's at 6 light hours. Let's round up to a week. At a light week away, Polaris is impossible to see, and they're telling us it's 433 light years away. Wrap your mind around that. This proves, not theory, absolutely positive, that the stars that we see are not what they tell us. They're right here. They're within the Earth system. They're small. They're probably not even physical objects. And that's a whole nother discussion. So now let's talk about extraterrestrials. Well, if they're not coming from outer space, there has to be extraterrestrials. I need them. I love them. I've grown up with them. So let me ask you a question. When it rains, where are you guys? What state are you in?
I'm in Florida. Walt's in New York. Yeah. Sorry, Walt.
All right. Well, I'm in Connecticut, right on the edge of New York. So when it rains and a puddle forms, where does a puddle form? At the top of a hill?
Bottom.
And what contains the puddle? What's stopping the puddle from running away and going elsewhere?
Whatever, like the pitch is, if it's lower than the ground, that's
so the ground that's consistently higher than the surface of the puddle that's laying there. So right. So the land is a container. Large bodies of water need a container. They need lateral pressure to maintain a container. If you have a tub, get rid of the tub, the water's gone. Get rid of the pool, the water's gone. Get rid of the edge of the puddle's gone. A bigger puddle is called a pond. A bigger pond's called a lake. So you have a big lake. And the shoreline of the lake is the container. It's the land that's consistently all the way around higher than the lake. Because if you dug out a little lower spot, you now have a river, and the lake just goes away. All right. So now let's imagine a lake 5 miles around. Let's make it 10 miles around. 10 miles around lake in the middle of Kansas. All right. And in this lake, you have a bunch of islands, and at the center of the lake, you have a mountain. A tall mountain, and we're going to make it a magnetic mountain. So when you're on the lake on your boat and you get a compass out, your compass is always going to point towards that center pole of the lake. All right. So now on your boat, you're halfway between the center and the outside, and you want to head west according to your compass. Well, west is a circle. As you travel west, you have to constantly turn to the right to maintain a heading of west because your compass is always pointing towards the center of the lake. So you can keep going west and end up right back where you started from. You're on a little island. You want to head east. So you get on your canoe and you're watching your compass. You're just staring at your compass, 90 degrees. You're on 90 degrees. You maintain 90 degrees. And now you've ended up at the other side of that island. You came right back to where you started from because you made a circle. That's how you circumnavigate on a flat earth. Now, what happens if you go south? Which way is south? South is every direction away from the center. Every direction away from the center. So I put my back to that magnetic pole. I sail to the south. And what happens when I get to the edge of the lake? Can I fall off that lake? No, I'm at the edge of the lake, Kansas. So I climb up out of my canoe, I pull it up onto the land, and I start walking. Well, this is a lake in the middle of Kansas. I don't know how big Kansas is, but you got a long walk before you get to the end of Kansas. And what happens when you get to the end of Kansas? You get to another state. Right? What happens when you just keep going? Now, all of a sudden, let's say you make it all the way over to the East Coast, and now you found water. Well, you find another boat there. You start paddling out across the Atlantic, and all of a sudden, you're at England. You found more land. Okay? So our world is a pond. We live in the Antarctic basin. They tell us Antarctica, that little continent at the bottom of the globe, which there are no pictures from space, they're all cartoons, is the highest land on Earth. When you get to Antarctica, the plateau is like 200 feet over your head, maybe even higher. The Antarctica is the highest land on Earth. Antarctica is not a continent at the bottom of the ball. Antarctica is the shoreline of our lake. You hear people talk about the ice wall, makes you think of the Game of Thrones. That's mind control. It's the ice shoreline, which is like a cliff, and the plateau is up high. And you get up there and you start walking. Now you're in Kansas and you're walking and walking, walking. What's out there? If we live in the center in the Antarctic basin, what's beyond the shoreline of Antarctica? What if you go a couple thousand miles and all of a sudden there's another ocean? And then you get in a boat and then you find more land. That would be extra territory, extra terra. If somebody lived out there and they flew into the inner space where we live, we might consider them an extraterrestrial from outer space. Okay? So that is scientifically possible, provable, doable versus the ridiculousness of trillions and quadrillions of miles of empty space where there's a planet floating around, a burning gas ball in a space vacuum. Absolute and total nonsense. I believe, and again, anything beyond the shoreline of Antarctica or anything over 73 miles is speculation because nobody is allowed to go there. I believe that there's many worlds across this earth plane and that the people more advanced than we are travel between worlds.
So, all right. So you do think they travel between. So I was going to ask, like, you said our perception of like space is pretty much impossible. So now, 2022, we're talking about, we can sort of time travel and wormholes. Like, do you think that's like, so if your theory or if your line of thinking is right, does that take out like that whole like that Interstellar movie where you can go through wormholes and like I understand like that movie's not like accurate, but just that theory. Do you think that like
it's scientific? It's scientifically accurate.
Like some of it, yeah.
It's scientifically accurate as far as theoretical physics go, because but the king of theoretical physics, Michio Kaku himself, says in the world of theoretical physics, no prediction has ever come true. They've never proven anything, and they say in the world of cosmology that if you're in science, if you're off on a factor of 1 or even 10, 1 to 10. That is considered really bad, but in cosmology, they're off to 10 to the 120th power. Now, remember, a trillion has 12 zeros, and we just found out how big a trillion is. 10 to the 120th. I don't think a number that big even exists. Okay, so So when you say it's scientifically accurate, that's nonsense. It's scientifically accurate accurate in the world of pseudoscience, science fiction. So if you think of our world as the basement of the universe, we live on this plane. Now, what is this plane? Well, there's lots of evidence that we're like on a dielectric plane inside a toroidal field. That's all stuff that we can figure out, but it is scientifically provable that there is no curvature. It's scientifically provable that there is no axial rotation. Every scientific test that's been done to prove both have proven the opposite, but they hide that from you in school. There's many experiments that have been done by well-known scientists, and they all prove that we live on a flat, stationary, non-rotating plane. Airplanes fly straight and level over the Earth plane, right? Airplane routes, emergency landings in airplanes prove that the Earth is flat.
So David, did you always believe that? When did you start believing in flat Earth, or when did you really get invested? Like, I'm just asking, what is your background on everything? Like, where did this start?
I will answer that. Let me ask you a question first. Where do I live?
You said Connecticut, right?
Okay, so is that a belief or do you know it?
I mean,
it's a belief because I told you and you believed me, but you've never verified it, right? So now you have two choices. Your goal today is to decide if I live in Connecticut. You could believe it. Now you can go smoke a joint and take a nap and do whatever you want. Or you could go online, and it won't be that hard. You go on Facebook, you find me there, and then you find my friends, and then you look and you're like, oh, all these things are happening in Connecticut. Oh, I found his yearbook. He definitely lives in Connecticut. Now you know it. Belief is the enemy of knowing, and ego is the protector of belief. I, like you, we've all been indoctrinated into the heliocentric ball system before we could even talk. Our parents probably put a solar system mobile above our crib. We had NASA sheets on our bed. We watched Sesame Street, Walt Disney. They have astronauts on there, right? Rockets, and everything is about ball programming. Then you go to school, your teacher's a god. At the front of the classroom, there's a globe. And one of the first worksheets you bring home is the orbits of the planets and the moon and the sun. I remember doing that sheet. And the kids are getting the same sheet today. And I remember that I was so smart. I knew that the moon went around the Earth and the Earth went around the sun. And a lot of people got that wrong. And I was so smart. Okay. This is called, just globe programming. They program that into us all the time. Every movie, every cartoon, they all have globe programming. Why the lie? Why would they do this? We'll get into that. And then so I grew up believing this. So now I did a podcast, and when you call me a conspiracy theorist, that's very inaccurate. I'm a conspiracy analyst, right? I spend hours and hours and months researching things, and then somebody who's never looked into anything goes, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. That's insulting and ignorant. So I'm a conspiracy analyst, and we were looking into many of the deceptions of the world. They're doing a podcast called Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, and it was a lot of fun. And people started sending me stuff in the third year. Hey, Dave, have you ever looked into flat Earth? I was like, yeah, that's so funny. I was like, that's not even funny. Why would you even send that? And then they kept sending more, and they kept posting on our Facebook page, and I would just ban them for life. And then just watch this 2-minute video. And I'm like, you're stupid. I'm not wasting my time. I won't even click on the video. Flat Earth, dumbest thing ever. Okay. Delete, ban for life. And then one day I'm talking to a researcher that I respect a lot. And we were talking about some nonsense that was going on in the world. And I said, Sophia, there's so much deception in this world. It's overwhelming. And she goes, oh, David, it's worse than that. I think the Earth might be flat. And I'm like, what? Are you freaking kidding me? I literally just got finished banning some people for harassing me about it to look into it. And she sent me a couple of videos. Now, where do you get your video? Where do you get your information? YouTube? YouTube is just a store of information, just like the world, right? The world is filled with information. You got to interpret it. There's good information. There's crap information. So I watched these videos. I was like, oh, that's interesting. The first one I watched was Mark Sargent's Clues, where he did a series of questions because he was hearing about flat Earth, and he put out these questions like, hey, how does this happen? And how does this happen? It was like, they're like 10, 15 minutes, maybe less. And he figured some PhDs would come back and go, this is how it happens. But there was dead silence. Nothing ever came back. So I started researching. And this was back in 2015 when YouTube would say, hey, you're interested in flat Earth? Look at this. Look at this. And all the people that were putting up videos by the thousands were getting recommended to you. And I started looking. And for 2 weeks, I'm with a closed mind trying to prove the globe, disprove flat Earth. I'm not even looking at it with an open mind like you guys are. And I'm trying to disprove it. And one thing I kept seeing is we can see too far. Well, if we live on a ball, yes, a boat would disappear over the horizon at a set distance. So what is that distance? Well, the formula is 8 inches per mile squared. Oh, people freak out. Well, that's easy. 8 inches per mile squared. You have to square the miles, because if you drew a straight line out tangent with the bottom of your feet, as it gets farther and farther away, the Earth is going to curve away faster and faster. So at the first mile, there's 8 inches. At the second mile, it's 2 times 2 is 4 times 8 is 32. 32 inches. Third mile, 6 feet. So that means if I'm standing a 6 foot tall person standing at the edge of calm water, there should be a 6 foot drop in the curvature at 3 miles, and therefore I shouldn't be able to see the surface of the water any farther. So we have a picture. We have many pictures. Today's consumer optics have outgrown their lies. So this is how it works. When you look into the distance, everything gets smaller and smaller and merges into the horizon. The horizon, which is not the horizon horizontal, it's not the curvizon. It's where, and that's the limit of your vision. So imagine this: you're out on a day where you have cumulus clouds sitting on the deck. The clouds are 5,000-10,000 feet above your head, no problem. And as you look away, the ones directly above you are 90 degrees above you. Point straight up at the cloud; it's straight above you. But then if you look over into the distance over the water, 20, 30, 40 miles away, not even 40, more like 20, 25 miles away, the clouds there that are sitting on that deck look like they're touching the water, right? And basically they merge together. And if you pointed at the cloud, you're now pointing parallel to the line, your feet, to the horizontal line coming out from your feet. But in your head, you know that cloud is really still 5,000 or 10,000 feet in the air, and you can't see any farther. But if you get today's, get good binoculars, or Nikon has the P900 and the P1000 super zoom cameras, you zoom in and you can open up that merging, and now you can see farther, right? So I started seeing, so I bought a P900, a tripod. I went down to the beach and I zoomed in on beaches away where people are sitting across the Long Island Sound, and I could see people sitting at the beach. And I'm like, wait a minute, the curvature formula says that there should be 2 feet of curvature, 3 feet, right? And at 10 miles, there should be 66 feet of curvature. So then I said, okay, wait a minute. The curvature formula has to be wrong. The Earth is much bigger than that. And I went to the debunking websites, the sites that are dedicated to stop people from investigating into flat Earth by, throwing all sorts of nonsense out there. And this one site said, well, if you're looking at an object 10 miles away, there's 66 feet of curvature, but it's not a 66 foot drop, because that item you're looking is you're halfway on one side of the curve and it's halfway on the other side of the curve. So there's only 33 feet of curvature. Now that's absolutely false, but I'll give it to them because I don't need it. Just like I don't need the light issue with stars. All right. There's only 33 feet of curvature. I can still see a buoy that's 10 feet tall at over 10 miles away. Okay. I should be behind 66 feet of curvature, or 33, according to the false model. I can see it. And then the other thing was boats disappearing from the bottom up. But boats disappear. You can watch a boat sail away, a big boat, barge, whatever, and it disappears. It's completely gone. And then you get your camera, you zoom in, and there's the boat again. Like, what happened? It merges into the horizon, right? And now on our audio podcast, I'm going to end this and throw it back to you. Talking about terrestrial perspective, looking from the land to another thing like a boat on the land, versus celestial perspective, looking at something above the clouds, above the atmosphere, like the sun or the moon, from a terrestrial Earth point of view. You have different perspective things that are happening, and I have tons of videos that you can watch and learn about this stuff. And then again, don't believe anything I'm saying. Go verify this stuff yourself. But the thing is, doing these long distance tests and everything takes time, equipment, the right place, the right weather, all of the stuff. It's all been done for you You can see it's completely documented, and you can use your discernment to realize how that these are accurate and scientific. Unlike in your textbooks in school, well, scientists tell us that that Venus is about the same size of the Earth, and when Venus transited in front of the sun, people on the East Coast and West Coast saw it at different times, and we did perfectly good triangulation and figured out that the sun is 93 million miles away. That's absolute and total garbage, nonsense. So bottom line is, if you Google flat Earth, you're not going to find anything except propaganda and absolute nonsense in the videos that they want you to see. You mentioned earlier that I had a debate. It wasn't supposed to be a debate. It was supposed to be a discussion with Professor Dave, who's not a professor. He's a failed musician who dropped out of college, who's being propped up by YouTube to just basically insult flat earthers. And I had a debate with him where he couldn't answer anything. He just called me names. And when I explained the impossibility of seasons, he said, I don't understand what you're saying. It was said in the book, and it's absolute ridiculous nonsense. So where do you find all this stuff? I have an app. It's called the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app that bypasses YouTube's algorithms, gives you all the resources you need. It's $3. I'm not here to sell apps. Don't buy the app. Just go to flatearthdave.com. Check out the resources there. Check out the app. Check out the reviews on the app. That alone will turn you into a flat earther, right? And check it out. Do your own research, and then your eyes will be open. We live in the Matrix, just like Neo. The Matrix is a prison for your mind. It's the heliocentric prison for your mind. It has you trapped in a world where they tell Truman there's nothing more to discover, Truman, right? You're trapped in this world, okay? But in the reality is, what's beyond Antarctica? What's in the north? That's another rabbit hole, right? They don't want us to allow us to go there. The Antarctic Treaty doesn't allow any country, anybody to explore Antarctica. Yeah, you can spend $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 to go to Antarctica for just a couple of days. They take you to a little peninsula, a little island off of Santiago, Chile, on Antarctica. And they don't let you explore the massive outer lands. In reality, Antarctica is probably bigger than all of our oceans and all of our continents combined. And then it just gets bigger from there. But they don't want us to know that, because if we know that we're on a flat Earth, that means we have to know that this place was created for us. Therefore, there is a creator, whoever that is to you, that's your own personal journey, and that we are at the center of creation. They don't want us to know that our thoughts create our reality. They don't want us to know that we don't have to listen to their bullshit, okay? They don't want us to know that there's infinite water, there's infinite food, that there's nothing to be afraid of. Flat earthers aren't afraid and were never bored. The two mind killers are boredom and fear, false evidence appearing real, okay? Also on the app, there's a thing called the friend finder. You hit that, you throw in a username, you can find all the other app users near you. You can message them, you can set up meetups, you can send out group messages. It's an amazing tool. You can find people are now using it as a dating site, because flat earthers really only want to talk to other people that are awake and aware and don't believe they live on a silly cartoon ball. And they're also using it as a job to find employees to work for people, and people are finding it to make themselves available to other people. So, one of the insults, I'll throw it back, in 2015, it's like, oh, good luck ever getting a job, flat earther. Well, good luck ever getting a job, ball earther, because flat earthers don't hire ball earthers.
Well, we'll see how that all does shake out. So, you touched on the creator thing there. Me and Walt do differ on this. I will not as far as like religion, whatever anyone wants to do religiously. It's one of the worst things ever.
Absolutely. Well, religion divides people. Here's the thing. I was atheist. That was the best way to describe me until I understood what this place is. It's intelligently designed. Now that's it. It's intelligently designed. Who is that intelligent? What is it? What was the purpose? Why you're here? It was intelligently designed for us. That's your own journey. That's as far as I take it. And whatever you want to believe, figure out, that's your own journey. But the idea of evolution, right? Amoeba created out of nothing, turned into a human eyeball. How does a human eyeball, like I'm looking out my skylight right now, and in the distance I see trees and leaves, and I can identify the different types of trees by looking at the leaves, and I could see the clouds and the weather behind it. I can interpret all of this stuff, and this is by random mutations. It's the dumbest thing in the world. We are designed. Okay, this is a highly, incredibly intelligently designed vehicle that I'm in.
Well, and I agree with that completely. But, and, you know, people like, if you're like, oh no, God and whatever religion, well, if there's a guy who was able to create an entire globe or disc-shaped planet, whichever you believe,
no disc.
why? Well, no, I'm just, well, flat, you know, flat Earth, globe Earth.
Yeah.
So if there's a guy who can create that, why couldn't he have created like a million other ones? And I'm not saying I believe that. I'm just saying, as far as like something for people who like swear by, oh, there's one God who, you know, he only created us. If he had that power to create this, why wouldn't he have done it a million times over?
Sean, let me just respond to that. So let's just pretend that a guy, you know, a God created this world, and why wouldn't he create more? But think about it. Space is scientifically impossible in this world, in this physical world. But a flat extended plane with multiple ponds, millions and billions and trillions of ponds across the plane, the physical plane, that makes perfect sense. Okay.
Right.
That makes perfect sense. And I didn't answer your question before about wormholes and traveling to great distances. Well, if there was a pond, another Earth pond beyond Antarctica, that's just a few thousand miles away. It's not trillions and quadrillions of miles. So to travel, let's call that other pond Mars, the Mars system. We live in the Apollo system, right? So in the Mars system, where what that light in the sky that we call Mars, maybe that's the sun on another pond, but it looks like a star because it's so far away for us. That is just a few thousand miles away. So you get into a spaceship or a high flying aircraft, and you know, here on Earth, if we can get up that high, I don't believe this happens, but if we can get up, the Earth pond would get smaller and smaller and smaller, and it would look like a lit up dot. It would look like a sphere in our mind because it's circular. And then we see another in the distance, we see another light, and we fly over to it. We're there in a couple of hours, and then that dot will get bigger and bigger and bigger. And now we're on Mars, on the Earth plane. The Earth plane is scientifically provably possible. Space is impossible. It doesn't exist. It's Narnia. Okay. So there's in the app, the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app, if you go to the books page, there's a book called Terra Firma or something like that, which shows this map of the world with all of the ponds. It's quite amazing. And I highly recommend that people, you know, research that book. It's truly phenomenal. The book is actually called The Navigator Who Crossed the Ice Wall. It's not called Terra Firma. It's truly amazing. So check that out. There's tons and tons and tons of resources. I don't know if you guys looked into mud floods. That's in there because that all ties into flat Earth, right? All of our history is a lie. You know, people say, you know, here, for those of you screaming now, what about the Greeks figured it out 2,000 years ago? Aristophanes with his sticks and shadows. Absolutely nonsense. It never happened. But even if it did happen, it works perfectly on a flat Earth. There's information to explain that under the frequently asked questions section of the app. People say, you know, what about sunsets? And I actually show you exactly how sunsets work. When you're watching the sunset, you guys ever watch the sunset?
Me and Walt actually hand in hand quite often.
All right. Do you believe that you're falling over backwards faster than the speed of sound on a spinning ball, or is the sun just going away?
To me, it just looks like it's going away.
Yeah. Use your common sense, and rather than the nonsense that school tries to teach you, right? They're teaching you nonsense because they don't want you in a position to challenge their authority. No ruling class, especially an evil one, will teach their serfs information that could challenge their existence. They teach us geometry and algebra. They don't teach us vortex mathematics and sacred geometry. They don't teach us stuff that will actually activate our pineal glands and our brains and get them to actually do what they're supposed to do. Again, here's the thing. Globe Earth is way easier. You just believe. You never have to check anything else out. You don't have to know that the Earth is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, but only 300 miles an hour in in Alaska, which makes airplane flights very difficult. And then you don't have to know that it's orbiting 66,000 miles an hour around the sun in an elliptical, speeding up and slowing down orbit. You don't have to know that the sun is moving, that we're chasing the sun at 500,000 miles an hour. You don't have to know that during our summer here in the north, we're farther from the sun than we are in our winter. Okay, you don't have to think about any of that stuff because you can just believe. But if you want to know about flat earth, you got to learn about the globe earth first, because the globe earth is ridiculous. People that believe in the globe and defend it have no idea what their model is. I know what their model is. That's why I'm a flat earther. And then they have a false idea of what flat earth is: a disc floating in space, a disc world, right? It's not a disc world. That's absolutely nonsense. We're not a pizza floating in space. We're not a turnip floating in space. We're a lake in Kansas. What's Kansas? What's below the flat earth? What's holding it up? Well, you know what? I don't know. Nobody knows, because the deepest hole ever dug was in Russia. It's only less than 8 miles deep, and you can't get there. You can't get any farther than that anywhere in the world. Nobody knows. So that's like drilling halfway through the skin of an apple and knowing what the core is, right? They show us a meme in our science book showing us all the layers of Earth with the molten magnetic core. Molten magnetic core. Okay, that's like military intelligence. It's ridiculous, right? You can't have a molten magnetic core, because when you heat up a magnet, before it melts, it hits what's called the Curie point, and that's where all the magnetism is lost. Okay, so we have a molten magnetic core, impossible, like a burning ball of gas in space, impossible. And they drilled halfway through the skin of the apple, and when they were drilling, when they were guessing what they're going to hit next, they were wrong every step of the way. But somehow they know what the next 4,000 miles is. It's all pseudoscience nonsense to control your mind, to keep you plugged into the Matrix. Look at Neo at the beginning of the first Matrix. When he's in his room, he's depressed, something's wrong with the world. He's working in a slave job and, doesn't know what the hell's going on. And then look at Neo at the end of the movie when he's unplugged and he's awake and he sees the world for what it is. Doesn't matter what, the condition of the world. He's unplugged. Put those two people next to each other. Neo at the end of the movie are what flat earthers are. Neo at the beginning of the movie are what plugged in, heliocentric, matrix locked in zombies are. And that's what the most of the world is.
I don't disagree with the zombies. Go ahead, Walt.
It's all control, is what you're saying. The round earth, flat earth, world is flat. And the reason that we're all, the majority of people believe in round earth and we're taught this is to continue to control us from babies.
Well,
you see, Walter, hold power. Whoever has the power holds it.
Welcome to flat Earth.
Oh, okay. Right.
You get it. Yeah. Well, he got you. He fucking got you, man.
Welcome to flat Earth.
It took 48 minutes, not even the whole hour. You're a flat earther. God damn. I'm buying.
You know what? Don't say you're a flat earther. Don't say you're a flat earther. Say you're a globe skeptic. Start there, because it's a little less shocking to the system. And then once you really accept it, you'll embrace flat earther, because flat earther doesn't mean moron, idiot, retard, homeless. It means smart, awake, aware, and women find it very sexy, to be honest.
And all right, it's Friday the 13th, so we're gonna ask some yes or no, just some of the big conspiracy theories in the world. Just yes or no opinion. Do you think the government can control the weather?
It's not a theory. They admit that they can control the weather, so yes.
Okay. Do you think there is some?
I mean, there's patents and stuff, but go ahead. And they've done it before. They've flooded places out. It's all public knowledge.
Yeah, I guess now within the last 5, maybe at least 10 years, that's less of a theory and more of
they talk about how they flooded out, they brought rains to put out fires, and they do all this stuff, but then they don't do it when it's needed. It's absolutely. How about this? I'm going to take it one step further. There is no natural weather anymore.
That's fair. Okay.
All right, go ahead.
I mean, hey, if you look up at the clouds don't look like they used to. I don't care what anyone says, but
thank you.
Some big New World Order thing? You think there's some big global government hope in the world that we're all just under one thing? I think it's going to be Amazon. Honestly, I think that will be the global power that owns us all. But who knows?
Well, that's part of the whole system. Amazon, Elon Musk and his nonsense. Elon Musk is a fraud, 100%. I have a video. If you email me, I'll send it to you. And actually, you're going to get an automated email from me. Look at the Elon Musk is a fraud. Link it in the podcast. A 5-minute video, and it shows you that he's just a puppet. He's actually a moron, and none of the stuff that he says he does. Some of the stuff might be real, but he's not the one doing it. He's just a puppet. So, who Klaus Schwab is, right? Of course, you should.
Yeah, I've definitely heard of the name.
Yeah, he wrote a book called The Great Reset. It's all about the Great Reset and the New World Order. It's not a theory. They're telling us, it's in books. They're laying out the whole plan. They want us to own nothing and them to own everything. And they want to track us. They want to know everything that we're doing. They want the digital Fed dollar, not privacy cryptocurrencies. So yeah, it's not a theory. They're literally trying to reset the world right now.
Okay, and you mentioned this a little bit already. You used Matrix, for example. Do you think we are like a digital simulation, or do you think this is all real?
Well, it depends on what angle you look at it from. I believe that the currency of this world are souls. Souls are like infinitely faceted diamonds, and I don't think they can be killed. And then when you bring a soul into this world through love and joining of two people, you are basically an avatar. We're here in this world, and our goal is to not lose control of our soul and expand the mind of the creator. So we're here to work together, to have a good time. And if people knew that, there would be none of this fighting or anything. Everybody would work in harmony. And that's how this world should work. So is that fit? I think what I call it is we're in a physical simulation.
Okay. All right. I don't hate that answer at all. Chemtrails, government poisoning us through chemicals in the sky?
Well, they're definitely it's definitely not good for us, but the chemtrails aren't. There's multi-purposes. One, they can control the weather with the stuff that they're spraying in the sky and atmospheric heaters. It also is poison. It's causing fires all around the world, where it's putting all of this very flammable particles, metallic particles everywhere. So the fires that they're having are part of it. They're also blocking us from seeing celestial events that they don't want us to see. And the biggest thing is they're disconnecting us. The consciousness that you call Sean and Walt are not in your head. You're connected to them through your Wi-Fi antenna, which is your pineal gland. And that comes from, I would say, the heavens, the non-physical heavens above. And they're trying to disconnect us. They're trying to interfere with the world's, the Earth's immune system. The Earth can heal itself. I don't believe that extinction exists. Yes, we can hunt animals right until there's none left. And then as soon as we stop, those animals will come back, right? Because the world has an immune system. And it's very, very interesting how that works.
All right. Ghosts, you talked about like souls or currency. Do you think you see on TV like people being possessed by like an evil spirit? Like you think things like that are possible?
Well, I have to say this quietly. I have a mother-in-law that actually improves that people could be possessed.
Oh, that's fair.
No, my answer is I'm just kidding about that.
Sober today from mine, so I hear you. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, I'm no
Trunchbuls.
Yeah, I'm just kidding about that. She's fine. Yeah, I'm sure there's energies, spirits, ghosts, whatever you want to call them. People say that aliens are demons, right? I say there's a difference between aliens and extraterrestrials. Extraterrestrials are the physical people that are living on the lands on the extraterra beyond Antarctica. So sure, if the light spectrum was 100 yards long, we only see like a quarter of an inch of that or something. So there could be something vibrating at another spectrum right here in this room with me. Is our souls that have passed out of this physical realm, are they watching us? Maybe. I kind of like to think so.
All right. And then, this will be the last one. Unless Walt's got something for you, we'll get you out of here on this one. Can jet fuel melt steel beams?
I'll flip it back at you. Do jumbo jets use jet fuel? Have you looked into that?
I don't know. No, I haven't.
Look at the Boeing. So if you go to stoplookthink.com and then go to the no jet fuel box on the bottom, or maybe it's a drop down menu at the top under other things, and then watch the Boeing A380, which is this double-decker giant plane. The amount of fuel that they say it uses is absolutely insane. It would be like 40 fuel tanker trucks stacked on the wings. And then if you look, like there's no place in the wings for fuel, right? There's like hydraulics and everything. It's absolutely impossible. Do jet fuels use big jets use fuel? I think they use a very little bit, if any at all. They use compressed air, and they use what's called, I think it's like ramjet technology, where basically just the air going into the engine creates a vibration, and they're using that to run these planes. It makes absolutely no sense, the amount of fuel. And if you're careful at an airport, like I was in Costa Rica, I saw my plane come in from New York. It pulled up, it never fueled up, and then we got on it and it flew back. I'm like, what, did they bring twice the amount of fuel? Maybe it's cheaper fuel in New York. And then if you watch when they hook the fuel up to the plane, look at the size of that hose. Think about when they fill a swimming pool, how long it takes. It takes hours, right? But somehow they fill up the fucking plane in 5 minutes, right? Coming out of that speed, it would blow a hole right in the wing, right? And there's no possible way that they're putting that amount of fuel in planes. So short answer, of course, jet fuel can't melt steel beams.
All right. I like it. Here's the thing. Anyone can disagree with you, obviously, but I also, even if someone's listening to you right now, and I'm not saying I am, but like, obviously you deal with someone listens to you, and whether they're listening or not, they're like, oh, this is bullshit. It doesn't matter. But I still give credence and credit to anyone who has a belief and can talk, intelligently about it, even if, so like, could be the craziest thing in the world, but if you can make it sound like a fact, I'll be like, hey,
so here's the thing. We talk about beliefs. Like, I've researched, and the people that are saying that I'm crazy have done zero research, and they just believe, right? They believe because they were told by a guy in a bow tie who lies, right? So here's the thing. If you think flat earth is stupid, then you should think that the globe earth is not stupid, and you should be able to come up with one proof and win your 3 Bitcoins. Instead of saying this is stupid, it's so stupid, I'm not going to look into it. That's your ego going, don't look into it. Don't just say it's stupid. Walk away. Don't look, because if you look, you're going to end up in the same boat as this crazy flat earth Dave, right? So that's the defense mechanism that your ego, that your subconscious will use to get you not to look into it. Because if you look into it and honestly look into it rather than just Googling flat earth, you will end up where I am. You will end up, and it is life-shaking, life-changing, but all in a good way, right? You'll never be bored. Life is way more interesting, and you actually may help us resolve the tyranny that is happening right now. This reset we're going through is man-made, and it can be stopped. But people need to get their heads out of their asses and stop spinning around, right? If you go to flatearthdave.com and take it's called the crash course, and it's just videos. It's just a couple videos. Turn off Netflix for a couple days, start watching those videos. I guarantee you can't get through the first 4, which are very entertaining, very well done. We'll put together, grab some popcorn, a beer, whatever you want, and watch them. There's no way you can get through the first 4 and not become a 100% globe lie flat earther.
Well, and whether you think the earth's flat or not, one thing I do know, and I think Dave definitely knows, and I'm pretty sure Walt will vouch for this, maybe not everything, but question next to near everything anyway, no matter what someone, like, for yourself, not just to be cynical, but, find out for yourself, no matter what it is in life. So, right. whether you think Dave's crazy or the globe earthers are crazy, find out for you. If you think chemtrails are real or fake, look into it for you. Don't just go off of what anybody's saying. Do the research, especially on the things that are affecting us. So,
Sean, just one more time is, if you think I'm crazy, therefore you think the opposite is true, claim your Bitcoins. Yeah, but your ego is going to tell you, don't bother. Don't look, because if you look, your ego, your your soul is yelling at you right now. Look, and your consciousness, your ego is going, no, don't look. It'll ruin. I'll have to admit I've been lied to my whole life. And then, since you mentioned jet fuel, melting steel beams, all of that information on that and all of the other hoaxes that go around it are scrubbed from ScrewTube. So the place to find them is stoplookthink.com. If you want to learn about the jet fuel thing that happened in New York, go to the top, drop down, and say all 9/11 videos, and start watching those videos, and you'll know the truth about that and all of the other nonsense that's happened. since then.
Dave, thank you so much. You were definitely very enlightening. I appreciate you being here and dropping some knowledge on us.
All right. Thanks so much, guys. See ya on the rebound.
Definitely. Take care, Dave.
All right. See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.